Malaki, trolley. Hindi mga resibo po na mga peke rin na pinapagawa si Miss Janet sa Poles.
While the country is anxiously waiting for updates on the PDAF scandal, the focus has shifted to the whistleblowers who divulge information on the year-long scam that has shook the Filipinos. Previous whistleblowers and eyewitnesses of several high-profile cases have expressed their grief over how the government has treated them after they sacrificed their lives to tell the truth.
Pag ikaw naging witness against the official of this administration, hindi ka tatanggapin.
These whistleblowers were under the protection of the Witness Protection Act, or RA 6981. The law aimed to provide protection and benefits to witnesses that have testified to a crime. However, the law does not offer government protection from forms of threats and harassments. Thus, the proposal of House Bill 5715, or the Whistleblowers Protection Act. The bill aims to extend security and benefits to individuals who volunteer information on graft and corruption. If passed, the bill will strengthen the program under the Department of Justice, establishing a Witness Protection Bureau and giving the department the power to change the identity of witnesses. The Whistleblowers Protection Act was passed on the third and final reading under the 15th Congress. However, the Senate has failed to pass its own version. If passed, how will this bill protect present and future whistleblowers and witnesses of high-profile cases? How is it better than the pre-existing Witness Protection Program? How will this benefit the justice system, given that it will involve high-profile personalities allegedly involved in criminal activities?
Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Nepomuceno. Tonight, in light of the PDAF scandal, we'll discuss the Whistleblowers Protection Act, or House Bill 5715, what you need to know about this bill, and how it aims to protect whistleblowers in high-profile cases similar to the PDAF case.
Our guest for tonight is Attorney Mary Lopez, Director of the Public Information and Media Relations Bureau of the Office of the Ombudsman.
Yeah.
Good
evening, Attorney
Director.
Mary.
Good evening, Attorney Rod. Good evening, Attorney Karen.
I'm sure you're very busy now. I mean, in the office of the Ombudsman. So thanks for taking the
Yeah, she was
the time.
telling me earlier,
Yeah?
may ang dami daw lagi nagka-camp out na media in front of their office for the past several weeks.
I think because well, a lot of people, us lawyers, we're quite familiar with the Office of the Ombudsman, Sandigan Bayan. But for a lot of lay people, I guess they're a little confused. No? Lalo na in the process of what has happened, you know, the arrest processes, for example, and all that. Perhaps maybe we can start off this discussion about whistleblowers by enlightening our audience. What is the role of the Ombudsman? I mean, what do you do?
What do we do as an institution? Well, the Office of the Ombudsman is the chief anti-graft buster in the country. So we handle criminal complaints filed against governors, mayors, congressmen, all the public officials in government. Not only do we have criminal jurisdiction over public officials, but we also handle the administrative adjudication of cases. But aside from criminal and administrative jurisdiction over public officials, we also handle the fact-finding investigation. So when you say fact-finding investigation, this is the process wherein the office tries to gather enough evidence to see if a charge is sufficient to be filed before the office for preliminary investigation. So maraming stages na pinagdadaanan ng isang complaint bago ito maihabla sa korte sa Sandigan Bayan.
All right.
Okay. Attorney Mary, I guess this is a good time to clarify to our viewers the role of the Ombudsman with respect to those existing PDAF cases that have been filed against some senators. So, I guess, kasi yung iba nagtatanong before, nasa Ombudsman na yung kaso, bakit hindi pa na-aresto? Bakit wala pa tayong naririnig na nangyayari dun sa trial? Siguro this is something that you can explain.
If you remember way back in sometime last year in July, the National Bureau of Investigation forwarded cases before the Office of the Ombudsman. And the Office of the Ombudsman conducted its own fact-finding investigation. Sometime in November, we started our preliminary investigation. When you say preliminary investigation, the office already found sufficient evidence in order to upgrade it into a preliminary investigation.
investigation.
So we were requesting the parties already to file their counter affidavits and their respective evidence to support the case. So last April, the Ombudsman Morales found probable cause to indict 3 officials. They're Senators Enrile, Revilla, and Estrada. And presently, the case is being tried in the Sandigan Bayan.
And again,
So
who-
just to clarify,
Yeah.
the court here is the Sandigan Bayan.
Yes.
Yes.
And the ombudsman
Is
kind
the
of
investigator.
Yes, similar
Like
to
a prosecutor.
for those of you who have undergone mga criminal procedure case or mga cases na criminal cases siya. Similar siya to the public prosecutor or in the old days tinatawag natin fiscal.
Yung fiscal,
Yeah,
yes.
tapos yung court is the Sandigan Bayan.
But when it comes to administrative cases, though, you can adjudicate that.
Yes,
diba?
we do
so
also.
you're both quasi-judicial in the way you're judicial, at the same time you're prosecutorial,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So okay, so in this case, I mean, not just anyone can come to you and present to you evidence, and then you'll investigate right away. Who are the bodies? You know, would it be, for example, NBI or what? I mean, which officers, for example, or can it be just an ordinary person filing something in the ombudsman? So maybe you can clarify.
That's
that.
probably this is probably a good opportunity to let the public know that the Office of the Ombudsman can entertain complaints from anybody.
From anybody. Good.
So
All right.
we do have an online filing system wherein you can file complaints anonymously. But we always say that when you file complaints anonymously, you must give us at least verifiable leads. You know, don't just say that Mayor X from X province committed graft and not say anything else. So you need to have at least verifiable leads from which the Office of the Ombudsman can conduct its own investigation.
Actually, I experienced this firsthand in not so long ago when I was involved in a trial.
Yes.
There was a notice to explain given to our client because there were complaints against our client about certain cases, and then the ombudsman received that basically some anonymously and the others by certain identified individuals who were
And the Office of the Ombudsman is stationed strategically in the Philippines. No? We have offices in Visayas, we have offices in Mindanao, and we also have regional offices in Cagayan de Oro, Iloilo, and Pangasinan. So it's not necessary for complainants to go to the central office in Agham Road and file a complaint there. So you can file your complaints in Cebu, in Davao, in Cagayan de Oro, in our other
so
regional
in other
offices.
words, you make it easy for people.
We try to make it
file.
easier because accessibility is one of the key features of the ombudsman. Kasi nga ang Tagalog nun is sumbungan ng bayan.
Yeah.
So kung hindi ka if you cannot be reached, then it becomes difficult for you to
And
do
I
the
think
job.
it's also good to point out, no, in the whole judicial system, it's a constitutional.
Yes, it is a
body.
constitutional body
Right.
together with
So
the COMELEC and the Civil Service Commission.
So why
The
is that?
Ombudsman
Maybe you
is-
can explain to the audience. Why is it important that it's a constitutional body and not within the whole judicial hierarchy, so to speak?
Well, independence is very important. So if you remember, every time Ombudsman Morales gives out statements, we always say that we are an independent constitutional body. So we are impervious to influence from outsiders, knowing that the people that we investigate are the very same people
Yeah.
who are in Congress
Yes.
or who are in the in the bureaucracy. So independence is one of the key features of the Office of the Ombudsman, and it is enshrined in the constitutional provision that that independence is one of the marked features of the agency.
Well, Attorney Mary, now that we have cases that have been filed,
Yes.
and we'll go closer to our topic for today, which is the Witness Protection Act and the Whistleblowers, which is still a bill.
Yes.
Now that you mentioned earlier that you can actually file cases online or anonymously, or at least go, if you're a concerned citizen and you find out cases of graft and corruption, you can just approach to file cases. So if you're a witness, for instance, how do you deal with those who complain and those who are witnesses to these crimes? Because you mentioned earlier, at least the ombudsman is a whole institution that can protect itself. But for individuals, you're going against congressmen, people in power.
Yes.
So how do you ensure that they are also protected?
Well, one of the House bills that is pending right now is the Whistleblowers Protection and Benefits Act. And one of the features of that House bill is the creation of the Whistleblowers Protection Council. And if you look at the members of that council, prominently figuring there are the officials of the Office of the Ombudsman, including the Special Prosecutor. So what we're saying is, we do know that the present cases involving the PDAF and other cases are document intensive. Ano yung papel, di ba?
10,000
Yes,
pages.
9,000 pages daw sabi nila. But it's important that aside from these documents, you have individuals who come in who have personal knowledge or access to data in order to assist us in the investigation of cases. So they provide a critical link.
Yeah.
When you go to the investigation, eventually when you go to trial, these whistleblowers will provide a crucial link in order to ensure that the investigation, in order to ensure that the cases are resolved.
So in a way, just having, let's say, a whistleblower might not be enough. It has to be corroborated with documentary evidence. Same way the documentary evidence has to be kind of linked with.
Yes,
with
because
whatever
documents generally don't speak by themselves.
Yeah,
Normally,
you have to
you have
corroborate
individual.
that, and,
Yes.
and I think that's what's happening now. No? That's
Yes.
why you're linking it all together.
Yes.
Now, how do you go about weighing the evidence? Is it the same way that a typical, let's say, a prosecutor, for example, would weigh evidence? Is it in the same kind of discipline?
Or the amount
or
of
the process?
evidence that you
Yeah.
require? Is it about the same as cases against non-public officers?
We need to remember that the Office of the Ombudsman just has to make a determination of probable cause. This is very different from the one that we have in the Sandigan Bayan, wherein it must be proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Correct, yeah.
So,
That probable cause, though, it's also in prosecutors' offices, diba?
Yes.
So is it the same
Parang
kind of
similar.
it's
I
almost
guess.
similar,
Yeah.
yes. But
Parang-
but the Office of the Ombudsman is, in my opinion, it can be highly specialized, no? Because the types of cases that we handle are anti-graft. Plunder, you have forfeiture of ill-gotten
Yeah.
wealth. Unlike in the prosecutor service in the NPS, generally they handle all other types of criminal complaints that are covered in the revised penal code. So,
Yeah. So I guess it's about the same, but because of the nature of the crime, you can't
Yeah.
really compare apples to apples, no?
Yeah.
In determining ano ba, sufficient na ba, probable cause na ba yung amount of evidence.
and what
And-
we're trying to say is that you need to incentivize the whistleblowers. Hindi pwedeng nag-testify lang sila and then you leave them
hanging? Yeah.
So
On
it's
their own, yeah?
yes,
Yeah.
and we need to remember that the matters that they're testifying on are sensitive matters, or they may be information that are known only to them. So it's important to take care of that link in the investigation of cases.
Well, considering it's still a bill, I still have a lot of questions for you to ask how you protect, of course, the witnesses. So we still have a lot to discuss with our guests. Legal Help Desk will return after these messages. You're still watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News Channel with Attorney Mary Lopez, Director of the Public Information and Media Relations Bureau of the Office of the Ombudsman.
All right. So now we were talking about obviously yung mga whistleblowers and how they can be protected. But before we go to the question of Karen about the details of how they can benefit from the protection, I mean, how do you go about being a whistleblower? I mean, I guess let's
who
differentiate
are
that first.
considered whistleblowers
Yeah, let's
in the
differentiate
first
it to the state witness. Kasi may mga certain rules on being a state witness and being eligible for the witness protection program, right? So maybe we can differentiate those two things.
Maybe we could probably mention, as an example, what happened to Ms. Ruby Tuason.
All right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. As a
She was
comment.
granted immunity. She was not made a state witness at that point yet, because the determination of a state witness is within the jurisdiction of the court. So it is not the ombudsman that makes the determination that X will be a state witness. So what we do provide is once there is a determination that there is that the testimony that you had given is material, and it can be corroborated in its material points, and the information is necessary for the successful investigation and prosecution of the case, the office may consider granting immunity.
So it's the office of the ombudsman
It's
that
the
can grant immunity in
Yes.
the first place bago pa maging state witness.
But yes, kasi dun yung minsan nagkakaroon ng issues, no? Because the terms were loosely used.
Yes. And
Mayroong immunity, may state
witness,
witness, mayroong whistleblower. But with respect to our institution, what we acted upon and what we evaluated was the request for immunity.
which doesn't automatically make her a state witness, right?
It does not automatically make her a state witness, because it is within the determination of the court.
Now, if you
Depende
have-
sa
But
rule.
if you have immunity, though.
sorry, the immunity is, I guess this is related to what you're about to ask.
Yeah.
What does that give you in terms of being entitled to immunity? How is that different from being a
Because
state
the whole point of,
witness?
correct me if I'm wrong, the whole point of wanting to be a state witness is so that you will not be prosecuted for the same crime,
Yes.
right? So if you were granted immunity, but you were not considered a state witness,
Later on,
what's
yes.
what's the I guess
What's the basic
what's
difference
the basic
between
yeah.
between these two types of witnesses? When you are granted immunity, you are no longer included in the charge sheet. So ibig sabihin, when we filed the criminal indictment before the Sandigan Bayan, you were already dropped. So you are not people versus.
Yeah, you're not technically a respondent.
You're not an accused.
You're not
You're not
You're
respondent,
not an accused
but
anymore.
you're also not a witness for the state.
Yes.
Because when you say a state witness, you're a witness for the state. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But with respect to being a state witness, at first you are an accused.
Yes. But so in that case, it
Alright.
appears that being granted immunity by the Office of the Ombudsman is more beneficial than being a state witness. Or is there a probability that even after you're granted immunity, you can become an accused after?
Again, it's determined by the court. So we cannot say that immune ka na and then at a later time you will become a state witness. It does not follow as a matter of course.
Yeah,
I'm
because-
just curious because
So we're very
the
careful.
law that provides for being a state witness says that you have to be one of the accused
Yes.
and you convert into being
Correct.
a state witness. But if from the outset you're
You already
dropped,
had immunity. Yeah.
yes, because you
So that's-
were given immunity by the Office of the Ombudsman, then you
In
don't
a
probably
become an
sense, it
accused.
becomes beneficial.
Yeah,
It's
no?
beneficial because there was never a charge against you.
Yes.
Right?
And you need to remember, we also need to let the public know that yung determination of state witness comes after the presentation of the evidence by the prosecution.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Now-
isn't that preempting the decision of the court? I'm just curious if eventually during the trial there's a possibility that the ombudsman can then file a case against someone who already received immunity from the start.
Well, it depends. No, I guess the difficulty now is it's ongoing trial. So there's a lot of things that we try to avoid saying because we don't want to preempt the proceedings in court. But as it stands right now, one of the respondents was granted immunity because the
And that's Ms. Rubito
yes,
Ason.
because the testimony that she provided was again crucial
So
to the
just-
investigation
just to
because
point
it tied her up together. It tied
Yeah.
up the lawmakers,
The
in the
lawmakers, yeah.
investigation.
Do you also use the standard na kailangan she does not appear to be the most guilty to be granted
Yeah,
immunity?
when the ombudsman determines that, do you also take that in consideration that she's the least guilty?
I think it's also part of the package. No? It's the totality of the testimony that is being given by the proposed witness who is requesting for immunity, as long as the important thing is the testimony that she will provide is critical.
So from a technical standpoint and purely legalistic
Purely
standpoint,
legalistic.
she's not a state witness. Ruby Tuason is
Right
not a
now,
state
no.
witness.
No,
right?
she is not a state witness because only the Sandigan Bayan can declare.
She's just a resource.
She is an immune witness.
An immune witness.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I want to clarify that because the media outfits keep on saying that she's
Calling her a
calling
state
her a
witness,
state
yes.
witness. Yeah.
And I'm just curious, do you think, Attorney Mary, in your opinion, that having the Whistleblowers Protection Bill become a law, will that allow more cases of graft and corruption to prosper, or at least to be reported?
Reporting graft and corruption is of course, important to the Office of the Ombudsman, no? Because we have limited resources in terms of the personnel who can go out and conduct fact-finding investigation. But if we have individuals who are willing to give their written statements under oath and they have personal knowledge about matters involving graft and corruption, then it would be beneficial to the institution in terms of weeding out graft.
All right. Now, we have some questions from our viewers, and we'll answer these with our guests, of course. Starting with Olga. I was a witness to a crime, but I don't want to, report anymore out of fear for myself and for my family. Can I be criminally charged because I don't want to come forward anymore as a witness?
Well,
So, yeah.
I guess it depende yun kung she was accepted into the witness protection program. No, maraming components kasi eh. Meron kang immune witness, meron kang witness under the witness protection program, meron din tawag na konsepto na whistleblower. So, if she is accepted into the program as the witness protection, but I think the OJ ASIC is in the best position to say this, there are repercussions, of course, if you recant or withdraw at a later time.
In this case, I think she was just saying that she witnessed something. I don't think she's in the program. She just
No,
witnessed.
no.
She just witnessed a crime, but she doesn't want to come out. And can she be held liable for? I guess.
Hindi niya pa, mukhang hindi niya pa nare-report in this case. So,
Unless, I guess maybe the way to answer that is unless she's harboring
no, that would be obstruction of
Obstruction of
justice,
justice.
and then of course
Yeah.
the harboring
But
itself
just-
is a...
just
PD
know-
1829.
Yeah.
no?
But just knowing something and not saying it that doesn't put her.
But I think Attorney Mary's
Cri-
point was
criminal
also,
liability.
it depends kung anong stage na yung pagiging witness niya. Because if this person who's asking, si Olga's asking this question, if she was a witness and did not
Report.
participate in the trial yet, then walang repercussions if she suddenly decides not to be a witness, not to participate in the trial anymore. But then if she already reported it or if she was one of the accused and was granted the status of a state witness, then there are consequences if she suddenly retracts or fails to give her testimony.
And the
So-
gravest consequence is probably the dismissal of the case if she does not testify as a witness. So
And we all don't want that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oo. So those are things for you to consider, Olga. Make sure that your testimony is there if it's going to lead to the dismissal of the case. Okay, we have another question from Tish. How does the Ombudsman weigh the evidences, including the testimonies of the whistleblowers, to cases they handle? How do they decide if the testimonies of these whistleblowers have any bearing to the case at hand?
Well, we had three principal whistleblowers in the PDAF case. It was Louie, it was Merlina Sula, and Suna and Sulyas. Sula and Sunyas. And they provided testimony as to how the scam was perpetrated. No? They were able to identify the implementing agencies, the NGOs, the money trail that was used in perpetrating the scam. And the Office of the Ombudsman is concerned with the determination of probable cause. Pag sinabi nating determination of probable cause, as a reasonably prudent man, do I believe that a crime has been committed? And do I believe that the individuals who we are charging committed that crime? And in this particular instance, the office found sufficient evidence to indict three senators before the Sandigan Bayan.
All right. So, yun ang measurement. Parang, parang it can be reasonably assumed by a prudent man
Yes.
that there was a crime indeed. All right. All right. Okay. So, Jackie naman wants to know what incentives or benefits will the government provide to further persuade people into confessing or divulging information on corrupt practices? Is there a reward of some kind for coming out with vital information on corruption? So,
Based on the House bill, there is a financial component.
Yes, I saw that.
Yes.
That's a good incentive.
And sometimes naha-highlight yung program because of this financial incentives that is given. Because we need to remember, when you're a whistleblower, your life is turned upside down. You lose your work, you are usually uprooted from where you are, and you need to go to somewhere else. So there is a financial incentive that is provided under the House bill. So it's not yet a law. It depends on the stage, and it depends if the case can be, if the pecuniary estimate of the case can be determined. So if it can be determined yung injury or yung pecuniary cost ng case, kapag when you're accepted into the program, the financial incentive is 200,000. Once it is filed with the Office of the Ombudsman, it's 100,000. Once the testimony is terminated, it's also 100,000.
Yeah, I think I also read a section of the House bill which states that if the case is successful, you get a percentage
10%
of the recovered amount. Yes, 10% of the recovered amount, or 1 million pesos, whichever is lower. So it's actually a good incentive, especially since, again, you risk sometimes your security, your personal life, definitely, because you become subjected to all the media coverage.
I have a number of other questions, but I think...
For now, we'll have to take another short break. So we'll be back. Legal Help Desk will return, so stay tuned. You're still watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel with our guest, Attorney Mary Lopez of the Office of the Ombudsman.
Yeah. Okay. So we were just discussing this off air. I know it's sometimes a funny, a little bit of
Sa sobrang
funny.
panood ng movies ni Rod.
we watch a lot of movies, diba? But my friends are asking me yung identity, diba? Yung to change one's identity. And you know, we watch movies. You're right. And sometimes they even change their faces. I know that's kind of wild, but realistically speaking, if I'm going to be a whistleblower, my life, you're right, my life totally changes. It goes upside down, and you'll never
be able to
be the same person. Every time I start my car, I feel like it's gonna explode or something. So you know, again, watching too many movies, but let's face it, lalo na here, it can happen, and so. Does the government provide that kind of benefit of, you know, changing your identity, for example, or perhaps
currently, I guess, in the Witness Protection Program, which is already a law, is that provided? Being able to change your identity.
Security is an important feature in the Witness Protection Benefit Services Act, no? And one of the features there is providing for a secure housing facility for the individual and allowing the individual opportunities to find livelihood, and also the confidentiality of your identity is also provided there. So that is one of the key features. Ang pagkakaiba lang na nangyari sa Whistleblower Protection Services Act is na-incentivize siya, may financial component na yung pagiging whistleblower mo as compared to a witness under the Witness Protection Program, yung WPP versus the Whistleblower Act.
Okay, now.
And Attorney Mary, can you also clarify if the Witness Protection Act and the Whistleblowers Protection Bill would be beneficial to both public cases and private cases, or meron bang difference yung dalawa in terms of yung coverage of the types of cases?
In general, you can enter the program in WPP if you're a witness to an offense involving grave felonies. So whistleblower protection kasi specific Yung offenses to which you should be able, which you should have information or access to information.
So to what types of
Yeah.
cases?
So sa whistleblower, kailangan you're a witness to anti-graft, so that's RA 3019, or you're a witness to RA 7080 plunder,
So
for
more-
feature of ill-gotten wealth,
so it's all
or
public officer
malversation.
related.
Yes.
Even the
Because-
giving of Christmas gifts and all that, right?
Meron.
Yeah, because it is under anti-graft and corrupt
So yung mga
practices
nagbibigay,
act, no?
mga nagbibigay ng Christmas gifts ay mga tumatanggap na government, di ba, employees. No, it's true.
Because it's not allowed, yeah.
That it's not allowed. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not
And
allowed.
I'm asking that question because in other countries like the US, they have the concept of whistleblowers even for private corporations
Yes.
and for private offenses. So for us, this protection bill, we can expect that it's only for cases which involve public officers.
Private individuals can also join in if they are in conspiracy with public officials, di ba? But for the whistleblowers, it's specific as to the offenses. It must relate to anti-graft and its other laws, malversation, you have bribery, plunder, again, and ill-gotten wealth.
Now, how do you think this bill? No? I think it's on third reading in Congress, and I think it's still in the Senate. But how do you think this will affect generally the graft and corruption cases being filed? Do you think it's something It's a positive development?
It's a very positive development because whistleblowers are an important tool, again, in investigating cases because they provide that critical link between the documents and you have testimony coming in from individuals who have personal knowledge that Mayor X received 1 million pesos in exchange for contracts being issued to contractors. So we are looking forward to at least the passage of this law.
Now, can you elaborate? There are certain violations of these laws. No? I mean, like for example, persuasion. Let's say government officials trying to persuade the whistleblower not to proceed. Can you outline some of the provisions how you can violate this whistleblower?
I'll cite one that might be of interest to government agencies. No?
Okay.
There's a provision in the House bill that says all government agencies must provide an abstract of the rights and benefits and responsibilities under the Whistleblower Protection Act. And it provides for a penalty if they do not post this abstract in the agency. So it's important na alam ng publiko kung ano yung mga karapatan nila if they so decide to become a whistleblower. Second, the bill also penalizes reprisals against employers.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? That's quite interesting.
Because if you're a whistleblower, normally you are testifying against high-ranking officials or some government officials. And normally what happens is you are employed in the government service because you see how the transaction was undertaken. And it's the proposed bill penalizes if you transfer a particular employee who is a whistleblower in order for her or for him or her not to be able to testify, or there are acts that are committed that that becomes difficult for the whistleblower to continue being employed.
For example, if you stop. If you fire that person, the one,
Yes.
or maybe you,
Or even if you
discriminate in against that person, right?
Because he's a whistleblower. That's
he's a whistleblower.
that's also penalized under the proposed House bill.
Okay.
What can
That's
the public expect for the coming weeks of the trial? That's already been filed by the Ombudsman against the current accused in the PDAF cases.
Yes, it's pending before the 1st, 3rd, and 5th division, all odd numbers. And right now our prosecutors from the Office of the Special Prosecutor, they are also with the Office of the Ombudsman. They are in the thick of preparations for the trial because they do know that this case is of particular interest to the public because of the sheer amount that is involved and because of the personalities who are involved in the case.
And even right now, because there's still no Whistleblowers Protection Act, do you think the Witness Protection Act and our laws or regulations on being a state witness are sufficient in order to incentivize the current witnesses that we have in these PDAF cases that are already pending?
It's difficult to say right now if the WPP is sufficient. And I think that's the reason why the Office of the Ombudsman is also trying to gain interest in the passage of the House bill regarding the whistleblowers, because we see the need to further strengthen the whistleblowers. So, to let them know that whistleblowers are an important component of any investigation, especially graft and corruption cases.
No, Attorney Mary, I have a question.
Yes.
And this is interesting, because obviously if you're a whistleblower, you're supposed to bring out the truth. But if during the investigation, and let's say you already got the benefits, but later on, as you go along in the investigation, it becomes clearer and clearer that his testimony or her testimony is actually false, right? It turns out, in other words, all the corroborative evidence point the other way, that he or she's telling a lie. Who determines that? And then later on, can you get back the benefits, and what happens there?
There's a Whistleblower Protection Council, and it's composed of officials from the Office of the Ombudsman, from the Special Prosecutor, the DOJ, the PNP, the JAGO is also there. And they're the council that makes that determination whether an individual and the testimony that is being offered by the individual will be sufficient in order to enter into that program. And there are penal sanctions that are available should the testimony be found out to be false.
Okay. Now we have additional...
Hindi basta-basta.
Okay, that's good to know. We have additional questions from our viewers. Rom tweeted, can a witness go straight to the Office of the Ombudsman, or is there a direct protocol that needs to be followed?
In the Office of the Ombudsman, it's along Agham Road in Quezon City, and generally the public can walk in and file a complaint, but we do have an office there. It's called the Public Assistance Bureau, and that is where we handle walk-in complaints. But for those individuals, yung sinasabi ko, sometimes it's difficult yung effort to go to Agham Road and to file a complaint. We do have an online filing system for complaints, and provided that you have verifiable leads.
And you mentioned earlier, even anonymous complaints are allowed as long as these are verifiable.
And what can they expect? When they fill up the form, what kind of response can they expect from the ombudsman?
After a complaint is filed, it goes through an evaluation process. In the last few years, we've seen an influx of cases, both criminal and administrative, that are filed in the office. If I may share, we have 8,000 criminal complaints, 8,000 administrative cases filed in the Office of the Ombudsman. So we need to have a filtering system.
8,000, that's a lot.
Wait, there's 8,000 per year? Or what is it?
Generally, you have complaints coming in and being filed in the Office of the Ombudsman nationwide. So for 2013, as of for the year 2013, we had about 8,000 criminal complaints and 8,000 administrative complaints. So that's a lot. And there is a filtering system that you need to put in place, because you have to focus on the high priority cases. And the high priority cases of the Ombudsman are those that involve grand cases of corruption. So for cases that involving about 10 million pesos and above, we consider that as grand cases of corruption, and we give priority to those types of cases.
All right. Okay, now Lorna naman is asking, can anyone file a case at the Office of the Ombudsman? So you already answered that.
Yes.
Anyone can.
Yes.
But would it be better, for example, if I went to, let's say, the NBI or to the police, or is it better that I go through that?
From my point of view, if the complaint that you are filing involves graft and corruption, then definitely you should go to the Office of the Ombudsman, because we do have fact-finding investigation functions. So the Office of the Ombudsman can build up the case for you. If, for example, you have information that mayor from X province, there was a procurement that was undertaken that was not above board, and you have that information because you were probably the contractor, you can go to the Office of the Ombudsman and file the necessary complaint. If you feel that the complaint is not sufficient in its entirety, the office can build the case for you through fact-finding investigation.
But now you've mentioned that anyone can file there. Can foreigners also file? Because I remember that the ambassador from the Czech Republic,
Rector,
trying to, of course, be similar to a whistleblower, expose this bribery scandal, for instance. So can a foreigner also file cases?
Yes, there is no distinction. So any complaint in any form may be entertained by the Office of the Ombudsman.
That's definitely very encouraging.
Yes, and very enlightening, especially since we have these cases that are really of national interest.
And, and if they need more information, they can go to our website. So we have www.ombudsman.gov.ph. You have links there. You have links in terms of online filing, the frequently asked questions. We also entertain requests for assistance. So if, for example, an individual comes in, walk in, he's having a problem with a government agency, the Office of the Ombudsman can assist in facilitating these matters through requests for assistance.
Okay.
Very enlightening. And thank you, Attorney Mary, for taking the time in spite of the very, very busy schedule. 8,000 cases a year. Try to think of
10,000
that, no?
pages per case.
And we really wish you luck in fighting graft and corruption in our country. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So we'd like to thank our guest, Attorney Mary Lopez, Director of the Public Information and Media Relations Bureau of the Office of the Ombudsman, for being with us tonight in discussing House Bill 5715 or the Whistleblowers Protection Act. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And Legal Help Desk will return after these reminders. Welcome back to Legal Help Desk on the Solar News Channel. And today we had a very timely topic about whistleblowers protection, which is still a bill, House Bill 5715.
Right.
But according to our guests from the Office of the Ombudsman, Attorney Mary Lopez, she believes that this can strengthen the ability to prosecute cases of graft and corruption, which I think is a very good thing for our country.
Yeah, because right now we just have the witness protection program. But this whistleblowers protection program is a different thing, no? And it provides more protection and provides more actually financial benefits for those who will come out. And I think one of the key things that key learnings that we had for tonight is that anyone, whether you're just an ordinary citizen or whether you're working for government and you know some anomaly within government, whether it's a mayor, a governor, you can just go online, go to the website of the Ombudsman and file a complaint right there. So you don't have to go to the NBI or to the police. You can just go directly, or you can go to their office at Agham Road. No? So
and actually the website is www.ombudsman.gov.ph, and as Attorney Mary Lopez of the Office of the Ombudsman mentioned earlier, you can even file cases online. Or you can file cases anonymously, as long as, of course, you include verifiable facts. And then, of course, you can also walk in to file a complaint. And in spite of the fact na wala pa tayong Whistleblower Protection Act, they do their best to assist you and to protect you. And among other things, even if you're one of the accused or if you participated, if you're not the most guilty, of course, this is not their official standards, pero parang medyo similar sa state witness. You can be granted immunity, which means you won't have a case filed against you. But just to give you some highlights of the pending bill, it's kind of similar to the Witness Protection Act in terms of providing security and protection with your identity, confidentiality. But unlike the Witness Protection Act, the Whistleblowers Protection Bill also gives financial incentives. And actually, lumaki yung mata ko kanina nung nakita ko na among the financial incentives would be a 10% success fee, meaning you get 10% of the amount recovered, which can lead to millions of pesos if you're
kung
talking
plunder
about
yan. Kung plunder yan, at
150
least,
million pesos or 2
Kung 50
billion
million ang- kung
pesos.
50 million ang recover.
Diba? Na 10% of 2 billion. But then, the law also provides that it is either 10% of the amount recovered or 1 million pesos, whichever is lower. So, but
So
still, that's still substantial.
Very substantial.
Yeah.
And what's also good to point out is that there is a provision in the Witness Protection Bill whereby you're, because most of the people who come out are employed people, right? So usually what happens is that you're going to be deprived of your salary, or you're going to be discriminated on by your employer by being part of the Witness Protection Program or the Whistleblower Protection Program. And what happens here is that you get protected. No? Your salary will continue to be paid, and you'll be protected from any kind of retaliation from your employer. So that's also
So let's
important.
cross our fingers. For those of you, at least it helps to know about this bill, and so hopefully it has already passed third reading in Congress. Hopefully Senate acts on it, and we hope for the success of this bill so that we can pursue more graft and corruption cases.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to be a whistleblower, but sometimes it just has to be done. You know, when you know something, and it will be for the good of the country. You know, so it's a big sacrifice for a lot of people out there, but at the same time, it's a very noble thing to do. All right. So anyway, that's it for the Whistleblower Protection Bill. Now, we received some questions from our viewers on topics we have previously discussed, and we'll answer them to serve as a recap. Starting with John. I work at a call center and I'm planning to resign. However, my account manager is requiring resigning agents to serve 60 days prior to their intended last day. The company policy only requires us to render 30 days. Is it legal for them to do this? Is it legal for them to hold our salary during the rendering of the period? No, I think we just followed the contract.
Yeah. Also, even under our law, it should be only 30 days notice, unless you have a reason for resigning, meaning if there's, just as an example, employer abuse, then you can even forgo filing having the
Notice.
30 days
Notice,
advance notice, because you can immediately resign without penalties for that. And then apart from that, yung salary, it is required to be paid every 15th and 30th day. So, in spite of the fact na kunwari meron talagang 30 days tapos ayaw ka pa nilang ipa-resign, they cannot hold on to your salary. They still have to give it to you at the times that are provided by law, which is the 15th or 30th day of the month. And also, if it's also in the company policy na 30 days lang, they have to observe that. They can't make it 60 days suddenly at their whim.
So you can actually file a case, no?
In the NLRC.
NLRC,
yes.
yeah. So because you have to follow, that was their policy, so they should follow it. So definitely I think you're on the right side here.
Okay, and we have another question from Mitchell. He tweeted, I know a couple who has a 7-year-old son and filed for an annulment. What happens to the child after the annulment? So,
No, yeah. Usually
I
in the
guess,
annulment, you go through
two
that.
questions. One, are you asking about custody? Kasi a 7-year-old child, a child below 7, usually yung custody nito, if the child is below 7, it is presumed that it's in the best interest of the child to be with the mother. But again, the court really takes into account all the factual circumstances to decide which parent should get custody of the child. The primary guide here is the best interest of the child. So, pagka 7 and above, the child can choose. They usually give primary consideration to the choice of the child. But in terms of legitimacy, even after annulment, the child remains to be a legitimate child of both parents, even after they remarry.
Yes, this is one of the, I guess, one of the strange things, no, in our family code, because usually, the presumption or when you get an annulment, it's like there was no marriage at all. But in this instance, the law, I guess, has confirmed that it's not the child's fault.
Yeah.
So the child will have will be considered legitimate and will have the rights of a legitimate child.
But I'd like to add pala, we have to make a distinction. The annulment that would make the child legitimate even after annulment is if it's based on Article 36, meaning yung ground for annulment is because of psychological incapacity. But if it's a ground that makes the marriage void from the start, so declaration of nullity siya, katulad ng, for instance, minor, one of the spouses is a minor, or merong complete absence of a marriage license, then the child would be illegitimate.
Yeah. So we had to clarify that. All right. Now, Dean asked, my wife was able to have our marriage annulled without my presence. How was this done?
Okay. Wala mo siya kamalay-malay. Well, it can happen sometimes that a trial can be in absentia, even in an annulment case, if they were not able to locate you in spite of best efforts. So baka nagkaroon po dito ng publication of the summons, meaning service of summons through publication, because in spite of best efforts, you could not be located or you were out of the country. It's also possible that trial can proceed, and they would use evidence based on the testimony of people that know you, that know both of you as couples, or other types of evidence, documentary evidence. So it's still possible na nagkaroon ng determination that one of you, it's not necessarily you, it might be your wife, that is psychologically incapacitated, and on that basis they can still get a judgment for annulment.
Yeah, so it's not necessary for both of the married people to be present during the entire trial. So there can be an adjudication for annulment even with one spouse absent. All right, so that's a summary of that. All right, that's all the time that we have for tonight. We would like to thank our guests and of course our viewers who sent us their questions via social media. If you have any questions, send them to our Facebook and Twitter pages. I'm Atty. Nepomuceno.
And I'm Atty. Karen Jimeno. If you have missed any of our previous episodes, you may watch these at your convenience anytime, anywhere, by downloading the Solar News Channel app from Google Play and the Apple App Store. Join us again next Monday as we discuss your legal rights. Good night.
Evidence to support the case. So last April, the Ombudsman Morales found probable cause to indict 3 officials. They're Senators Enrile, Revilla, and Estrada. And presently, the case is being tried in the Sandigan Bayan.
So just to clarify, the court here is the Sandigan Bayan.
Yes.
And the Ombudsman is kind
the
of
investigator.
Yes, similar to, for those of you who have undergone mga criminal procedure case or mga cases na criminal cases siya, similar siya to the public prosecutor, or in the old days, tinatawag natin fiscal.
Yung fiscal.
Yeah,
yes.
tapos yung court is the Sandigan Bayan.
When it comes to administrative cases, though, you can adjudicate that.
Yes,
diba?
we do
so
also.
You're both quasi-judicial in the way you're judicial, at the same time you're prosecutorial,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So okay, so in this case, I mean, not just anyone can come to you and present to you evidence, and then you'll investigate right away. Who are the bodies? You know, would it be, for example, NBI or what? I mean, which officers, for example, or can it be just an ordinary person filing something in the ombudsman? So maybe you can clarify.
That's
that.
probably This is probably a good opportunity to let the public know that the Office of the Ombudsman can entertain complaints from anybody.
From anybody. Good.
So
All right.
we do have an online filing system wherein you can file complaints anonymously. But we always say that when you file complaints anonymously, you must give us at least verifiable leads. You know, don't just say that Mayor X from X province committed graft and not say anything else. So you need to have at least verifiable leads from which the Office of the Ombudsman can conduct its own investigation.
Actually, I experienced this firsthand in not so long ago when I was involved in a trial.
Yes.
There was a notice to explain given to our client because there was there were complaints against our client about certain cases, and then the ombudsman received that basically some anonymously and the others by certain identified individuals who were...
And the Office of the Ombudsman is stationed strategically in the Philippines. No? We have offices in Visayas, we have offices in Mindanao, and we also have regional offices in Cagayan de Oro, Iloilo, and Pangasinan. So it's not necessary for complainants to go to the central office in Agham Road and file a complaint there. So you can file your complaints in Cebu, in Davao, in Cagayan de Oro, in our other regional offices.
So in other words, you make it easy for people.
We try to make
file.
it easier because accessibility is one of the key features of the ombudsman. Kasi nga ang Tagalog nun is sumbungan ng bayan. So kung hindi ka if you cannot be reached, then it becomes difficult for you to
and
do
I
the
think
job.
it's also good to point out, in the whole judicial system, it's a constitutional
Yes, it is a
body.
Constitutional body,
Right.
together with
So
the COMELEC and the Civil Service Commission.
So why
the
is that?
ombudsman
Maybe you
is-
can explain to the audience. Why is it important that it's a constitutional body and not within the whole judicial hierarchy, so to speak?
Well, independence is very important. So if you remember, every time Ombudsman Morales gives out statements, we always say that we are an independent constitutional body. So we are impervious to influence from outsiders, knowing that the people that we investigate are the very same people who are in Congress or who are in the...
Witnesses. The Whistleblowers Protection Act was passed on the third and final reading under the 15th Congress. However, the Senate has failed to pass its own version. If passed, how will this bill protect present and future whistleblowers and witnesses of high-profile cases? How is it better than the pre-existing witness protection program? How will this benefit the justice system, given that it will involve high-profile personalities allegedly involved in criminal activities?
Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Jimeno.
And I'm Atty. Nepomuceno. Tonight, in light of the PDAF scandal, I will discuss the Whistleblowers Protection Act, or House Bill 5715, what you need to know about this bill, and how it aims to protect whistleblowers in high-profile cases similar to the PDAF case.
Our guest for tonight is Attorney Mary Lopez, Director of the Public Information and Media Relations Bureau of the Office of the Ombudsman.
Good evening, Attorney
Director.
Mary.
Good evening, Attorney Rod. Good evening, Attorney Karen.
I'm sure you're very busy now. I mean, in the Office of the Ombudsman. So thanks for taking the
She was
time.
telling me earlier, may ang dami daw lagi nagka-camp out na media in front of their office for the past several weeks.
I think because a lot of people, us lawyers, we're quite familiar with the Office of the Ombudsman, but for a lot of lay people, I guess they're a little confused, no? Lalo na in the process of what has happened, the arrest processes, for example, and all that. Perhaps maybe we can start off this discussion about whistleblowers by enlightening our audience.
Request na yun is amounting to 30 million.
Pag ngayon, minsan malaki, trolley, hindi mga resibo po ng mga peke rin na pinapagawa si Miss Janet sa Coles.
While the country is anxiously waiting for updates on the PDAF scandal, the focus has shifted to the whistleblowers who divulge information on the year-long scam that has shook the Filipinos. Previous whistleblowers and eyewitnesses of several high-profile cases have expressed their grief over how the government has treated them after they sacrificed their lives to tell the truth.
Pag ikaw naging witness against the official of this administration, hindi ka tatanggapin.
These whistleblowers were under the protection of the Witness Protection Act, or RA 6981. The law aimed to provide protection and benefits to witnesses that have testified to a crime. However, the law does not offer government protection from forms of threats and harassments. Thus, the proposal of House Bill 5715 or the Whistleblowers Protection Act. The bill aims to extend security and benefits to individuals who volunteer information on graft and corruption. If passed, the bill will strengthen the program under the Department of Justice, establishing a Witness Protection Bureau and giving the department the power to change the identity of
What is the role of the ombudsman? I mean, what do you do?
What do we do as an
Yeah,
institution?
as an
Well, the
institution.
Office of the Ombudsman is the chief anti-graft buster in the country. So we handle criminal complaints filed against governors, mayors, congressmen, all the public officials in government. Not only do we have criminal jurisdiction over public officials, but we also handle the administrative adjudication of cases. But aside from criminal and administrative jurisdiction over public officials, we also handle the fact-finding investigation. So when you say fact-finding investigation, this is the process wherein the office tries to gather enough evidence to see if a charge is sufficient to be filed before the office for preliminary investigation. So maraming stages na pinagdadaanan ng isang complaint bago ito maihabla sa korte sa Sandigan Bayan.
All right.
Okay. Attorney Mary, I guess this is a good time to clarify to our viewers the role of the Ombudsman with respect to those existing PDAF cases that have been filed against some senators. So, I guess, kasi yung iba nagtatanong before, nasa Ombudsman na yung kaso,
Yes.
bakit hindi pa na-aresto? Bakit wala pa tayong naririnig na nangyayari dun sa trial? Siguro this is something that you can explain.
If you remember way back in sometime last year in July, the National Bureau of Investigation forwarded cases before the Office of the Ombudsman. And the Office of the Ombudsman conducted its own fact-finding investigation. Sometime in November, we started our preliminary investigation. When you say preliminary investigation, the office already found sufficient evidence in order to upgrade it into a preliminary investigation.
investigation.
So we were requesting the parties already to file their counter affidavits and their respective